Oh my God! Thank you for being here. And you're an Omega.
That's right.
So let's hear it. We started with Omega at Purdue. And then 4 up. Thank you very, very much, Jackson State. I am so excited. Before I knew it, I was downstairs on the first floor, just weeping and crying. When I saw the work, I was overcome with happiness, not grief, but I was crying tears of joy. I was so pleased and so honored for Henry and for the Sampson family. And I'm pleased to tell you that I'm the daughter-in-law of the man whose name is on the top of this building. So there, let me go ahead and read my speech. It'll take 10 minutes if I don't ad-lib. That's what my son told me to do. Mother, just read it. So here we go. I'm honored to stand here and say to Jackson State University, my name is Mrs. Henry Thomas Sampson, Jr., also known as Dr. Laura Housel Young-Sampson. I learned that when I was at a computer, I Googled my name, and it came up, Dr. Henry Thomas Sampson. I went, oh, that's shocking. When you Google your name and your husband's name comes up. Henry was really a genius, and he was renowned for what he did, but so humble, very humble. Okay, thank you, Jackson State, for making this day possible. President Dr. William Bynum, Dr. Melissa Druckery, yes, Darlita Ballard, where's Darlita? She's been putting up with us for about an hour and a half, just taking us through everything. The university archivist, Evangeline Robinson, who's no longer here, but I know her very well. She was at the beginning of this, along with Mr. David Hort, who visited our home in California many times over this, and we talked several times on the telephone. Dr. Mary White, was Mrs. White ever able to come? Okay, I wanted to say hello to her. Miss Tammy Brooks, where's Tammy? Hi, Tammy. Reverend Samuel Henry Boyd. I like that name. Got Henry in the middle. Dr. Boyd is a pastor of, as you know, of Pearl Street AME Church. Mrs. Constance Lawson, Chief Development Officer, and Mrs. Dr. soon-to-be Dr. Monica Lewis, the Development Foundation individual who was very patient and kind and helpful with me. We talked many times to make this day come together. I would also like to thank my son, Clifford Young Jr., and I'm glad to say, yes, he is a graduate of USC, but we didn't pay to have him put into USC. He got in there on his own recognizance. Just thought I'd put that down. He also, Clifford also holds a master's degree in psychology with a concentration in marriage and family therapy. Currently, he is a senior pastor of a church in Lomita, California. The name of the church is New Hope Christian Center. He is the senior pastor. He is married to my beautiful daughter-in-law, Robin Nelson Young, and I'm pleased to say that I have 2 grandchildren. Clifford Odell Young III, who is 17, and he is graduating this next month. Wants to go into medicine, and that's kind of a thing in our family. So there you are, and I have a beautiful granddaughter. Her name is Catherine Olivia Young, and Catherine is wonderful and brilliant. She is 14. So forgive me for bragging on my grandchildren, but you know, we have a chance. I had this Clifford, when I was 27 years old. He is now 44 years old. So now, if you're interested in my age, do the math. You'd be real interested in that. All right. It was a long wait for me and Henry for this day, to witness the outcome of our donation to the university. We knew that one day the university would open the doors on our donation to Jackson State University. 2 other universities requested the materials. Henry said, no, my research is going to Jackson State University. Now, I need to say something that's very, very important. In the Word, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31, the New King James Version says, but they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Psalms 27:14 has this to share. Wait on the Lord. Wait on the Lord. Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. Many people visited Henry and me in Palos Verdes, California, and they asked Henry, where are you going to donate your materials to? He said to Jackson State University. And they said, that's not going to happen. That's what I said, Doctor. That stuck with me. Henry passed away in my arms 3 years ago on June 4th. Year 1 after that passed by. Year 2 after that passed by. Year 3 passed by. I hadn't heard. And it was a good thing because the Lord has some things in mind for me. 2 knee surgeries, a left and right knee surgery. Notice I was sitting down over there. And a heart complication that threw me. I didn't realize I had been struck that hard by the death of my husband, but I was. And it took me a year to come around to the health that I now appreciate. So had Jackson State gotten in touch with me before then, it wouldn't have worked. So praise the Lord. That's why I said, wait on the Lord. He always knows what to do.
Always.
He knows what he's doing. Now we are here, and this is the historical moment we've both waited for, and my family and Henry's family, we've been waiting anxiously, and so now we're all honored. The history of Henry, you heard a little bit there. I'm going to go through this quickly because some of it is repetitious. Henry's mother was Esther Bertha Ellis Sampson Marshall. Now that's a lot of name, but she was the first wife of H.T. Sampson, and after he passed and after Mr. Marshall's wife passed, they were joined, and that's where I stand right now. I don't know Mr. Marshall. I did not know my father-in-law, but I know plenty about him, and I've got lots and lots of pictures. He was a young man when he passed away years ago, as Dr. Peoples and I were talking about it. All right. Henry wrote 7 books, including Blacks in Black and White, That's Enough, Folks, which is about cartoons, Blacks and Blackface, volumes 1 and 2, edition number 1 and edition number 2, a source, Swinging on the Ether Waves. It's about radios, and it goes back from the Civil War up until about 1970. And then I'll say The Ghost Walks. Now, I like to tell people The Ghost Walks talks about the history of African American performers who would get with an entertainer, the leader, and he would take them to different parts of the United States and they would perform. And the night before the final performance was over, after it was over, the manager would leave and leave all of the people there not paid and no transportation home. So that's what The Ghost Walks is about. That's Enough, Folks talks about the historical significance of cartoons And some of our cartoons are very, very, well, they're just different. You'll be surprised, those of you who are teaching here, when you see a cartoon like that, it'll really hurt you because you'll realize that it's beautiful, it's history, but that's how it was viewed by America. When Catherine and Clifford III were little children, Henry showed them John Brown. And the little cartoon, John Brown's body lay molded in the grave. When they got through, he says, let's give them something to watch. He put the cartoon on. I came back about 6 minutes and they were all crying. I said, Henry, why did you put that on? They're crying. He says, that's right, they need to know that. Yeah, he died, but he beat the train. Henry's grandfather, Tellus B. Ellis, took Henry to minstrel shows when he was 7 years old. And that's how he got interested in writing about black performances, concert, jazz, and blues. And the minstrel shows, whenever the dancers were up and they got a little too carried away, his grandfather, T.B. Ellis, would just put his hand over Henry's eyes until it was safe for him to look again. He was a young child, but it made quite an impression upon him. And that's how it is that he's writing all of this historically. Henry remembers a career day when he was at Morehouse. He had done the first and second year, and that year changed his life. There was what you call a career day at Morehouse, and Henry wasn't really invited because he was a sophomore, but he went in anyway, and it started him wanting to see what Purdue was all about. He said always, I did not invent the cell phone. And I must say that, standing here as his mouthpiece. I must say what he said. Henry's journey from Jackson, Mississippi to West Lafayette, Indiana occurred thanks to the intervention of an unknown Purdue graduate. Henry says, I was attending Morehouse in Atlanta. I went to senior career day. Even though I was a sophomore, I spoke to a Pfizer rep, a Purdue graduate who bragged about Purdue. I worked in Chicago that summer, and so I took the bus to West Lafayette to check out Purdue. When I walked over the bridge, it was love at first sight. I knew it was my college, my university. I called my mother and father after spending the entire day at Purdue, and I said to my mom and dad, I'm not going back to Morehouse. And Esther reported to me that she cried for 2 days, and his father, H.D. Sampson, said, leave him alone. If that's what he wants to do, let's support him. And that's how he got into it, because he wanted chemical engineering. All right? He was prepared excellently at Purdue. He said everything he knew about chemical engineering, he learned at Purdue. Henry was also a member of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated while earning his bachelor's degree at Purdue. So he and a few other young men got together and started it, and it still goes strong today. He's an Omega. On October 22nd, 2009, the School of Chemical Engineering honored Dr. Henry Sampson with the Outstanding Chemical Engineer Award. We went to that. He had not yet had a stroke, and we were having fun. We went everywhere. We were all over the place, and everyone was honoring him, and it was fun. It was great. The School of Chemical Engineering has a tradition of recognizing alumni who have achieved distinction as leaders in their careers and who have shaped the chemical engineering profession. Over the years, only 121 of the 9,000 alumni have been accorded with this prestigious award. Henry was raised here in Jackson. He graduated from Lanier High School, and he was raised in a Christian home with Christian parents who loved the Lord, and they were very serious and very concerned about him being raised in a Christian environment and a Christian home, and that's exactly what they did. He attended Morehouse College for 2 years and then transferred to Purdue. Then he got his bachelor's degree at Purdue in chemical engineering in 1956. He worked as a research chemical engineer in the United States Naval Weapons Center in China Lake, California. Many of your things online will say he was in the Navy, but he was not. He was a Navy fellow, and that's what it was. His work was in the area of high-energy solid propellants and case bonding materials for solid rocket motors. He earned his master's degrees from UCLA, and he earned a second master's degree and a PhD from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign in 1965 and 1967. Dr. Peoples was very much involved in where the boys went to school and helping Henry Sr. help them get organized and ready to go on. And I just wanted to say that, Dr. Peoples. Henry then moved to Aerospace Corporation in El Segundo, California, where he served as the director of the mission development and operations of space test programs. He also led the engineering staff in the planning, acquisition, development, launching, and space operation in several satellites. So when you saw a satellite go up in California, the chances are, or in other places, Henry was involved in that. He was one of the earliest engineers to examine how to power satellites. All right. Sampson has written a number of papers on rocket propulsion, direct conversion of nuclear energy to electricity, and computer simulation of electrical systems. He pioneered a study of internal ballistics of solid rocket motors using high-speed photography. He has written several technical papers and has been granted patents. In 1971, he invented the gamma electric cell, which makes it possible, or made it possible, to receive and to send audio signals by way of radio waves without wires. Now, I need to say that again because that's why people get it confused. He did the gamma electric cell that made it possible to receive and send audio signals by way of radio waves without wires. This scientific technology was used to eventually urge production of the cell phone. Okay? If you say he invented the cell phone, once he got up at a dinner, we weren't married yet, he said, "Thank you very much for honoring me. My name is Henry Sampson, and I did not invent the cell phone." And then he sat down.
Oh, okay.
And then I kicked him. Then he said, "Ow!" Just like that. You didn't have to do that. Okay, during the centennial meeting in Philadelphia in November 2008, Dr. Sampson was honored among 20 chemical engineers in other pursuits. Henry is the recipient of a variety of awards, including the Atomic Energy Commission Award 1964 to 1967, the Black Image Award from Aerospace Corporation in 1982, Blacks in Engineering, Applied Science and Education Award, and Los Angeles Council of Black Professional Engineers 1983, and was named a Fellow in the U.S. Navy 1962 to 1964. There are many, many, many other awards honoring Henry, too numerous to mention here. In addition to his work in engineering fields, Dr. Sampson is a writer, a historian, a film historian, and a documentary film producer who focuses on African American presence in the film industry and the entertainment industries. He is the revered expert in this field, portraying African Americans in movies, television, cartoons, and radios. And that's as much as I can share with you in this little bit of time about Henry Thomas Sampson Jr., my husband. Thank you.